In A Song of Ice and Fire, Daenerys is told the following riddle. The glass candles are burning, soon comes the pale mare, and after her the others. Kraken and dark flame, lion and griffin, the sun's son and the mummer's dragon, trust none of them. Remember the undying, beware the perfumed seneschal. Most of these warnings are quite easy to identify. The pale mare refers to the disease that grips Meereen in a dance with dragons. The Kraken refers to the arrival of Victarion Greyjoy in the Iron Fleet, which is revealed during the sample chapters from The Winds of Winter. The lion refers to Tyrion Lannister, whilst the griffin refers to Jon Connington of Griffin's Roost. The sun's son refers to Quentyn Martell, the son of Doran Martell, whose sigil is a sun and whose capital is Sunspear. The mummer's dragon is less clear, but is believed to be young Griff, who calls himself Aegon, and who claims to be the son of Rhaegar, and thus the Targaryen claimant to the Iron Throne, but who actually may be a Blackfyre, descended through the female line. But who is the final warning referring to? It was given last, so there is reason to suppose that it is the most critical. Beware the perfumed seneschal. Daenerys immediately assumes it is Reznak, a Myronese nobleman who is both explicitly described as a seneschal, or a steward of a ruler, and is described as being heavily perfumed. However, given the importance this perfumed seneschal seems to have, it is highly unlikely it refers to him, who is a bit of a non-entity and a lightweight. I cannot see him being the biggest threat to Daenerys. So who is Daenerys' biggest threat, her greatest enemy? I think it's Varys, the Spider, a man who is perhaps the most dangerous player of the Game of Thrones. Here's why. Firstly, he is somewhat of a seneschal, though not strictly filling the role. A seneschal is the steward of a household. He is an advisor and a prominent figure at whatever royal court he ends up in. Secondly, he is regularly described as being perfumed, typically with lavender. Indeed, his smell is a prominent part of his appearance. Thirdly, despite how bad the final seasons of the show were, and how they were very clearly different to what's going to happen in the books, we cannot ignore the fact that George R.R. Martin met with Benioff and Weiss to tell them the rough ending of the books. So whilst the show's ending is going to be different from what we see in the books, there's reason to think that many things will be the same, or at least similar. And I think one of the points of similarity will be how Varys will betray and work against Daenerys. Like in the show, I think we will see Varys plotting to undermine Daenerys, and perhaps even kill her at the end of the books. And unlike the show, I think he may just be successful. But why should Varys betray Daenerys? What are his true goals? I think the answer to this question lies in House Blackfyre and its current state. The Blackfyres were an offshoot of the Targaryens and fought numerous rebellions against them in the past. They have long maintained themselves as kings in exile on Essos, and each generation of Blackfyres have attempted to take the throne from the Targaryens. Though the Blackfyres now appear to be extinct in the male line, there is a popular and convincing theory which states that they are still extant in the female line in the form of young Griff, or fake Aegon, who, as the theory goes, is the son of Saera and Illyrio, and thus a Blackfyre. But why would Varys owe loyalty to him? Well, I think Varys himself is a Blackfyre. I think that he is the brother of Aegon's mother, Saera Blackfyre, thus making him the boy's uncle. Well, think about it, he always shaves his head, which could be designed to hide his silver Blackfyre hair. Though he does not have purple eyes, he is reported to smell of lavender, which is purple. Varys claims to have been born a slave and to grow up poor in a mummer's troop, before being sold to a mysterious man at a very high price and emasculated. Apparently, the man who bought him from the mummers for this purpose paid a handsome price, which begs the question, why? I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to find a street urchin in Essos very cheaply, or even for free. Why pay such a high price for Varys in particular? The man who bought him, and who I think was a maester from the Citadel, and thus he likely hates Targaryens and Blackfyres, singled out Varys for two reasons. Firstly, because in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, it is regularly claimed that there is power in king's blood, and if Varys is indeed a Blackfyre, that would explain why the maester sought him out. Secondly, the maester may have emasculated Varys so as to ensure that he never fathered children, and thus carried on the Blackfyre line. This would explain the idea of why the Blackfyres are supposedly extinct in the male line. This is backed up by Varys' reaction when Tyrion points out that Varys will never father children in A Clash of Kings. The eunuch's smile never flickered, but his eyes glittered with something that was not laughter. "You are kind to ask, but my tale is long and sad," he said. This is one of the few times where Varys' true emotions are shown, and it could hint that he does not come from the poor background he describes. Why else would he be so sad at not being able to father children? This, combined with many other inconsistencies, throw doubt on Illyrio and Varys' official background stories, and suggests that rather than starting out from the bottom, the two may have in fact have noble origins, and this could explain their close connection with the Blackfyre pretender, and why both of them go so far to help young Griff. I think that Varys will recognise that ultimately Daenerys with her dragons is the biggest threat to Aegon, and Varys will realise that much like how he infiltrated the Red Keep under Robert Baratheon, he will be best placed to assist Aegon by infiltrating Daenerys' inner circle and undermining her from within. There is only one obstacle here, and that is Tyrion. Tyrion knows about Illyrio and Varys' schemings and their true intentions and their connections to young Griff. So there is the threat that, like in the show, Tyrion will betray his friend and reveal his treachery to Daenerys. However, I think this is much less likely in the books. In the show, Tyrion seems to genuinely believe that Daenerys will be a good ruler and benefit the people of the Seven Kingdoms. However, in the books, Tyrion is far more motivated by his desire for revenge and his bitterness than by his morality. In the books, I think he will not care much about the idea of restoring the Targaryens, and he's mainly focused on destroying his family. So I think that he may well assist Varys, his friend, in his schemes and plots, and not betray him. Thus, Tyrion could play a key role in the death of Daenerys. And, on a side note, Tyrion sets sail for Meereen aboard a ship known as the Stinky or Fragrant Steward, with steward being another term for Seneschal. So I think that the warning could also apply to Tyrion, and that both he and Varys could conspire and be behind Daenerys' ultimate downfall.